Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Trent, and this is the show where we dive into all things youth athlete development, strength and conditioning, and the mindset needed to thrive on and off the field. Whether you're a parent looking to support your child's athletic journey, a coach seeking fresh insights, or an athlete ready to take your game to the next level, you're in the right place. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on our latest episodes. If you enjoy the show, please give us a like, share it with your friends, and help us reach even more people who can benefit from these insights. Together, we can empower the next generation of athletes to perform at their best. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to the Inner Athlete Podcast. I think everyone's a special guest here. I got another special guest, Matt. I don't even know your surname. I just call you Matt.
Matt Crawford.
Crawford.
Yeah.
Mr. Crawford. So Matt's from Bentleigh Greens.
Yep.
Currently coaching the under 15s.
Yes.
At the moment, and I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, and then today's all going to be around soccer.
Yep. So originally from New Zealand, moved over to Australia about 2 years ago. Been coaching females, junior females, for the last 15 years. I got into it when my daughter was born. She's now 21, and previous to that, was doing boys and senior men's and senior women's as well. So got back into it with my daughter, and haven't looked back.
Yeah, so it's basically you got into coaching soccer because you love it.
Yeah, because I used to play. I used to play back in New Zealand. I've been coaching 35 years now. So
oh wow,
long.
Older than
I
me.
didn't realise. Yeah, a long time. So and it's been good. It's been good. It's been a great journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, because you've said you coach seniors, like how to coaching the current crop at the moment, the under 15s, how are you finding them at the moment?
A breath of fresh air.
Okay.
Love coaching youth.
Yep.
Love coaching, especially the girls side. So I've been doing it the last 15 years now. I've sort of transferred into that. It's so much joyfulness and happiness with the girls compared to on the boys' side. Yeah,
I guess with the boys, are they just like more hyper competitive? There's more on the line type of thing, or?
I think on the boys' side, it's been my personal opinion it's been professionalised too much on the boys' side.
Okay.
And with all the academies and all this sort of stuff going around, I think the boys are starting to lose the enjoyment of it. On the girls' side, it hasn't gone that way so much, and you can actually see quite a difference. So if you've coached boys and you've coached girls, the difference in the mentality, the joyfulness and the happiness. That's the experience that I've had over the last 15 years.
Crazy. And then today's podcast is all about the youth female pathway for players, and obviously you've had experience in New Zealand, and now you're in the Australian system.
Yeah.
Specifically in Victoria, and then how would you compare the New Zealand system to the Australian system at the moment?
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally, it's so competitive over here. I've sort of I've been here the last 2 years, and I've given myself 5 years just to have a look at how it works here, especially obviously in Victoria. Totally different to New Zealand. It's pretty cutthroat.
Yep.
So I've just got to go through the next couple of years and just see how it works out.
Is there a particular reason why it's so cutthroat?
I don't know if the Kiwis are more laid back. Or
all the time.
I'm not sure. But over here, it's just the Aussie youth girl players just have that mentality that just they're getting to their goals. They're just nothing's getting in my way. Whereas the Kiwi girls, sort of not doing that, if you know what I mean. They're not goal orientated as much to see the end.
That's actually a fair point, because I think with some sports, and because I work with a lot of other sports, I work with more like lacrosse, and for example, The one thing I see in lacrosse, they actually enjoy like the process of actually playing the sport. Like everything they do, they talk about lacrosse. You know, it's throwing the ball against the wall. You know, for an hour a night or something like that. With soccer, I find it's I guess whether it's pushed because we have set high standards at a national level. From that perspective, in order to have this next crop of kids coming through, to whether these academies that are coming in, making a little profit, they're looking to what's the word? They've become like hyper competitive themselves. In order to prove themselves, and then they want more business to come in and all that jazz, which is like to some degree, it's not a bad point, but the key thing is for me is like, you want to be able to keep kids in the sport for as long as possible. And if you look at like South America, right? They kick a ball because they want to have fun. They enjoy it. It's like, yes, it is their natural sport, but they just get out on the street or get out of the park, get down to the park, and they just kick the ball around and do like a pickup game of a game of soccer. They're just with whoever's around.
And that's like I said just before. It's for the boys' side, the professionalisation of it. I think, I say again, has just gone a bit too far. We've got to let. I've got a saying that I've said to the girls in my 15s: let the kids play, just let them play, and let them enjoy it. And that's sort of what we've taken into this year, and so far they are, I think they're really enjoying it this year.
They seem to be doing really well. And if they make mistakes, I'm like, well, it's not the end of the world.
No, it's not. No, I mean, we don't look. A lot of the girls on my team are asking me, where are we in the league? Because we don't actually talk about where we are in the league week in, week out. And some of them, for conversation's sake, we're 4th or 5th in the league, but some of them don't even know that. We played yesterday, and one of them came off and said, "What was the score?" And we'd lost 3-2, but to her, that was, she just enjoyed the game. And you're talking about NPL, and this is supposed to be the kids that want to make it and all that sort of stuff. But we've brought into the team where let's just let the kids play and let's have a bit of fun on the way.
And if you ask a lot of professional athletes, the reason why they actually continue to play the sport is because it kind of like there's a sentimental value to them, because they actually enjoyed it when they were playing growing up, and it's like, hey, this is. And maybe it wasn't the goal to become a professional athlete for them per se, but they really enjoyed the process of actually getting better as a player. And as a byproduct, they actually became a professional soccer player. So I think from the perspective of a lot of sports in Australia, a lot of kids start to identify as the sport, and psychologically this can have a lot of issues, I believe. And I've worked with a lot of kids across a multitude of sports that have been injured. When they identify as sport, it's like, I can't do anything. I feel kind of useless. And it's like, well, you're not useless, number one. But number two is like, eventually your sporting career will have an expiry date to some degree. And it's like, can you actually move beyond what you have defined yourself as? More specifically, because if you look at AFL, there's a really good example. The average playing career is like maybe 3 years. At the top level. And then how many kids actually make it that far? It's not many.
No.
And they can actually survive and make it make something out of it. So a lot of the kids that I actually teach that are high-level athletes in whatever regards they want to go into, I says, like, you've got to at least have something that you can enjoy afterwards, and then be able to make a little bit of money, whether it's going to trade, go to university on a part-time basis. You're going to have something at the end of the day in order to fall back on, and then at least you're going to still be able to enjoy, because there's going to be a lot less pressure from that perspective. And if kids have actually a lot less pressure, and you probably would know this as well, they're going to be playing a lot more freely.
They do, absolutely. They don't have the pressure of, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to win, we've got to do this. They just enjoy it. Talking
about enjoying fun, how do you balance the between fun and performance in your training sessions? Like, how do you go, like, all right, we've got 90 minutes, I'm training 3 times a week. How do you prioritize, making it engaging, but also still teaching the fundamentals and the strategies that you want to implement on game day?
So with my team, I look at the norm of what, we've got all the coaches have certain ways, we should be coaching and doing this stuff and that sort of stuff. I look at the norm and try to tweak it a little bit and bring a bit of fun into it. I mean, we've got, in the soccer side, you've got FIFA 11 plus, which is a injury, you probably know, injury prevention stuff, which is running in lines, sideways movements and that sort of stuff. So I've looked at that and thought, actually, we can do the same thing, but instead of standing in lines, let's make it fun. And we brought pool noodles. And the kids were running back and forth from one line to the other, and a couple of girls were trying to whack each other, but they were doing the sideways movements, the backwards movements, the burst of speeds almost exactly the same as the FIFA 11 plus. So it's just looking at the norm and just tweaking it, and especially for youth, bringing in a bit of fun just to tweak it, because anyone can just run in lines and do that.
And also, it's the intent and the intensity that you want them to do a lot of these drills as well. So, say for it is, I always like to play like some form of game, whether it's like some sort of change of direction, or we'd play like octopus, but walking only. So they have to learn how to step, but then they have to work in a team, and there's a multitude of things they've got to focus on at once. But a lot of those elements actually have some carryover to what you're going to be doing in game day. So I guess from that perspective, it's always worthwhile to have some sort of like key objective that you want them to achieve, but subconsciously they don't know they're actually developing the thing that they need to be developing at the same time.
Absolutely. And say a lot of the coaches will just do exactly what says in the book, and but say with my style, or what I like to do, is just to change it a bit, and especially say in the youth, and just make it fun. Anything, make it fun.
And I think the other part is like when you start adding, like as soon as they start to get used to it, eventually it gets boring.
Yes.
So the intensity drops, and then you got to go, all right, how can I get their head into the training session and get them more present? So then when we do more the skill and the tactical work, that they're going to have that level of presence and awareness into the actual drill, and they're not going to be drifting off.
Yeah, it's just that variety, sort of thing. You've got to have that, otherwise it just gets boring after a while.
Yeah, and then how do you deal with girls that are having like a bad day, or a bad day at the office, so called?
So, I mean, as say, you're involved with the 15s, with the strength and conditioning, and when the players arrive, when the girls arrive, I'm watching them and seeing how they act when they turn up and that sort of stuff, and their emotions and all that sort of stuff. So even though I'm just standing there looking at, maybe them warming up or them arriving and all this sort of stuff, you can actually see how they interact with each other, and if they're tired or if they're not really there, they don't want to train, and you just adjust your training by, if that player's not quite, she's tired or whatever, and that, probably not go so hard on them, and just get them to go back to the enjoyment sort of thing again. But I'm always looking when they arrive to see what their emotions are and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, who's chirpy, who's bouncing around, who takes 10 days to tie up the boots.
And who's on the tiki-toki on the side doing the dance moves and all that sort of stuff. Those girls got positive energy and that sort of stuff. So you sort of rely on those.
Yeah, and then you kind of like get the girls that are feeling a little bit flat, and you kind of get them to feed off that as well.
Absolutely.
So whether you're playing, a small game, just to kind of just get them into the right headspace, and eventually they'll start to actually feel better because they become more amongst it in terms of their energy levels.
I say they've got enough going on in the outside world to not come into that environment training and bring that over, just to come in and and enjoy being around other people.
Yeah, and then how do you go with managing? Obviously, I think under 15s is probably the trickiest year group to work with compared to 13s and 17s. How do you go with like all the physiological, maturational changes that are occurring at the same time? How do you go with all that? Or you just kind of just like...
I leave it up to the strength and conditioning. You can see them. Back in New Zealand, we had a course on as adolescent girls and going through puberty and that sort of stuff, and how their bodies change. And that stage can be over 3 to 4 years, whereas boys it's 1 or 2 years of puberty, and then they're
it's
sort of
pretty quick. Yeah,
it goes pretty quick, and then they're almost a man, physiologically and all that sort of stuff. But with girls, it's 3 to 5 years, so you've got to take your time and just work through that.
Yeah, so it's just a slow, gradual process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other part is they're figuring out themselves.
Yep.
All those physiological changes or hormonal changes that they're going through. So I think the best part is just and obviously having a female around, like a female adult, whether it's a parent or as a manager as well, to be able to support them in that side.
Very important on that side, because they need to, because sometimes as the guys, our tone we're a bit rough and that sort of stuff, so they just want having a female around. When we've got an assistant coach, Izzy, who plays in the senior team, and they ask more about her than they do about me, so it just goes to show you that connection that they have with another female player. I think you've always got to have, if you're a male coaching a youth female team, you've always got to have a female in the coaching staff somewhere around. I think it's very, very important.
I think for every team that I've worked with, or female teams that I've worked with, there's always been a female present in some regards, whether it's like management, assistant coach, or something like that. There's always been one around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or someone who's still an athlete, still competing, but they're able to kind of like mentor the younger ones along the way, kind of like what Izzy's doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And they look up to them as well. They're role models as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'll have to get Izzy on the podcast, give her 2 cents.
Absolutely.
How does she deal with them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And then building resilience and confidence in players. You have a very interesting way when you're coaching on game day in terms of, getting the girls into the right headspace. Some of the girls might come off, feeling a bit sad and upset in terms of that. How do you kind of like, do you have a pep talk with them, or do you kind of let them have their moment? How do you usually go about that?
I let them have their moment, because the way they're feeling, if you've brought them off, or they haven't done, or if they think they haven't done well on the field, it's not the best time to talk to them as soon as they come off the pitch. Explain maybe why they've been brought off the pitch, but don't go into too much detail, because they've got to go through that emotion and work through it, and then after the game, then just maybe have a quiet one-on-one chat with them. So I don't really talk to them too much during the game, if they've come off and that sort of stuff. It's sort of saved for afterwards, because there's nothing really you can say to them that will make them feel better or feel worse, or you don't want to make them feel worse, but make them feel better. So you just let that process go through, and then pick it up 20 minutes later after the game or whatever.
And one thing I have noticed, watching a few of the 15s play, if there is one of the girls that comes off, she is seen a bit distressed or upset, the girls will actually just get around her.
And that's probably, and they've done that by themselves. The team balance, the team harmony, they've done that through the season. They've worked that out themselves. They all get around each other, and it's actually quite successful. So for me, I don't want to go straight in there and try to change that. They've worked that out themselves, and that's fantastic.
And I think from that side as well, sometimes as coaches, the less we say is actually better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think better off take that 2 seconds, let them breathe, settle down, get that even heart rate breathing down. Even go for a walk, even let them do like an emotional dump essentially.
Yes, absolutely. And the coaches are emotional as well. So you might have a player where they haven't done so well, or they're not playing well, and you've got to bring them off. You're emotional as well, so you don't want to go, hey, get really stuck in them and say, hey, no, you've done this wrong, because you're being emotional as well. You need, as a coach, especially as a male coach, you need that emotional dump off to the side as well, so you can breathe and then be more level-headed when you go back and talk to them. Yeah,
and then probably you as a coach, they're looking for the guidance after they've gone through that as
absolutely.
Well. So they, how can I get myself back into this?
Yeah, and I've had many conversations this year with girls that that have asked that after the fact, and a lot of them put it on themselves. I played badly. I said, no, let's just breathe, relax for the moment, and let's pick this up at training. Or if you want to talk, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after the game, we'll go that, because the emotion's gone out of it, and then it's a bit more of a clear thinking for the coach as well as the player.
Yeah, it's been more of a logical conversation that can be had.
Yeah,
it's like, I actually did this. And then I think the other part is, as like, high level athletes, especially in the NPL system, a lot of the times is we always want to get better, but we don't specifically define what that is.
Yeah.
The other problem is if we don't define what it is and we do something wrong, we feel like we've gone backwards as well. So what I say say if I got one of my basketball girls comes in, it's like, how did you play on the weekend? And I was like, oh, it was okay. It's like, all right, what did you do well?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't able to score points, but I was able to, get, 12 rebounds. I'm like, great, that's good.
Yeah.
Were you able to contribute to the team? It's like, yes, I was. I was like, well, there you go. It's still some level of success, not the success they may have wanted to have, a perfect game, whether it's, a triple-double, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But at least they can recognise the areas that they've done well, and that becomes a platform to actually improve.
Yes.
So if you feel like you're not making any form of dent or success, I've had any success, and it's like, why the point am I even trying in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And then from my perspective and the way I observe training sessions, the parents are actually pretty good. They kind of like stay away and, let you do your own thing. If they need to have more one-on-one conversations, they probably do that, outside of training sessions. So what do you see as the parents' role when it comes to developing their kids, or for girls?
Let the process take shape. Don't sort of jump straight in the first few weeks and, the process isn't going well. I mean, for most part, most coaches have the players at heart. They want them to do well in that. But I try to involve the parents. We get told as coaches, don't talk to the parents, go home, finish the game, go home, and that sort of stuff. But I've said this the last couple of years since I've been in Victoria, and I did it in New Zealand. If you need to talk to me, I'm fine. Talk after the game, if you've got any concerns and that sort of stuff, because I think you need to involve the parents, because if you put the parents to the side, it just leaves more mystery to what's going on. I mean, I'm quite open. I've said to the parents, if you want to talk to me, just put your hand up and I'll come over and talk to you. It can be about anything. If it's more controversial, like say for game time and all that sort of stuff, then we sort of have to go through, go with the TD, get somebody else in and just explain, do a bit more of explaining. But anything in regards to the girls' development, I'm open with the parents. Just come and chat, and a few of them have.
Yeah,
and it's been great.
Yeah, and if anything, they'll kind of like puts a lot of their any questions they have at ease.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any issues.
Yeah, because I say it's like a mystery. You don't know what's going on, and that as a parent, because I've with my daughter, they go away to, when she was going away to training and that sort of stuff. What's going on. Whereas if the coach had been approachable, it would have made it a lot easier. Yeah. That's sort of how I've moulded myself. I'm quite open. If you want to come and have a chat, there's nothing to hide. If you've got some concerns or positives or whatever, or you just want to sit down and have a chat, 100%. It's not a drama.
Yeah, it's good. And then like for us, it's the same thing as well. When members come in, especially with the young kids, the parents want to come in and have a quick chat or something like that. Unfortunately, I'm not here as often as I used to. But, everyone's got my number, and, you send me a text message or to organise a time to chat, or any issues, they can always just email me through and we can organise a time to actually, let's hash this out, see what's actually going on and actually address it directly.
Yeah, we've got the Stack team app where parents can private message, and I've had a couple of messages, and, I go straight back within half an hour saying, let's meet up, or this is, this is what's happening, sort of thing. So you've got to get them involved.
Yep. And then what lessons have you learnt across throughout your career? What were the 3 key lessons that you've learnt across your career when it comes to working with girls? And
get to know them rather than just get to know what makes them tick. Outside of soccer or outside of football as well. I mean, we've had so many conversations at training this year and even last year. You know, the girls will come up to me and go, guess what I did at school? This is my maths test. You know, I got 79% and all that sort of stuff. So, and talking about simple interest and all this sort of stuff. But this is all on the outside, and I think that really is key, and it's what I've enjoyed the most. It's been absolutely fantastic. But you've really got to get to know them outside of soccer, because it'll make the team more harmonious, and it's good all round.
So it kind of like reaffirms like common interests they might have with each other as well.
Yeah, because it's not just. Coaches come in and coach teams, and they're stewards of the teams. I've said to the girls at the start of this year and last year, it's not my team, it's your team. You know, you make it how you want. I'm just sort of trying to help you along the way on your journey.
Yeah.
But this is your team. You make it as happy as you want. Hopefully not as sad as you want. You know. But yeah, and that's what I've learned over the years.
Yeah. And what's another lesson that you've kind of learnt working with girls throughout your career? Yeah, 35 years. 35.
When I first started out coaching the girls, my wife, and say being a male, my tone was often how I spoke. In regards to the volume and that, and how I projected my voice. And it's quite funny, because over the last 5 or 6 years I've really watched my tone and how I speak to the players, and my wife loves it, because it sort of goes into the house as well, or hopefully it does.
It's transferred over.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the way you as a male, way you project your voice in that environment, and the tone of your voice. I say that's pretty paramount, and that's what I've learnt. I say very much so in the last 5 or 6 years.
No, I agree with that one, because one thing I found with boys, you can be pretty much like straight to the point, and they'll just do it.
Yeah.
With girls, I found if you tell boys what to do, what it is, they'll do it. If you tell girls what to do, they may not actually do it with the correct intention. And what I found is when, especially like, full disclosure, this is my first year working with female soccer team, but I've had experiences working with a lot of females in general.
Yeah.
What I found is when you explain things and get them to feel the desired outcome. So say if I'm teaching speed or acceleration, like takeoff, positioning, if I just show them the drill and get them to do it, they're probably going to half-ass it.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10. When I actually teach them and get them to break it down and maybe get one of the other girls to demonstrate it, that creates a lot more buy-in for them to actually perform it at a higher standard as well. Because especially, being as a male coach, it's a lot of things, there's too much of a gap in terms of the relatability between me and the athletes. Like, I'm 6'2", I'm 114 kilos. I'm like, all right.
What I say, you're as wide as you are tall.
I'm wide as I am tall. But like for someone of my size, like usually I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass, but I can move relatively quick relative to my size.
Yes.
Like yes, I am a big dude, but I can still move explosively. I want them to be able to move explosively. These girls may not be able to relate because their body proportions are completely different.
Yeah.
So if I get one of the girls to demonstrate it and I see it done really well, I'll positively highlight it, and then I'll get them to demonstrate it. This is what we want. And then you start to see a lot of the girls will want to emulate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well, and they want kind of like that positive reinforcement, positive feedback when it comes to that.
And saying on that comes back to, like I say, we've got Izzy Fernandez as a role model. When she comes in and shows it, the girls relate 100% quicker than what I show them how to do it, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And it's great to have a role model like Izzy, and obviously Izzy trains here, and then she's obviously all the running drills that she's doing here, and then she can positively influence the girls that she coaches,
absolutely,
as well. And I think from the girls' perspective, it's like when you're talking to them, obviously they want to know why, but they want to see it reinforced on a regular basis as well. So there's a few girls with the senior group that I've noticed. Say, for example, like contact. So contact is something that I would say it's not taught as much, going to, when it's those 50-50 balls.
Yeah.
It's not taught. And when it's not taught, it's hard to build confidence. So competence will develop confidence.
Yes.
When you practice it and you're doing it to a relatively high standard on a regular basis. What I have noticed just with more of the senior girls is some girls that are very they're quick and fast, but they actually start to ease up.
Yes.
In about 3 to 5 meters to the ball, and they see the opposition go for the ball.
Yeah.
How can I improve their confidence going into the contact? Obviously, I have to make them become more competent. And obviously, over the last, I think, 8 weeks, we're doing a lot more contact work.
Yeah.
And now it's starting to pay off in training. The smaller girls, with like Karina and Gigi,
yeah,
they're a lot more confident going into these 50-50 balls because they can actually hold their own ground.
Yes.
And then obviously I have to take into consideration potentially any injury history because unfortunately with the girls' side, the injury rate is a lot higher.
Yes.
And comparable to the boys. And I do think the more it's spoken about, the more fear it actually creates. But I think some of it's somewhat unjust or undue, or you kind of create a problem when there's sometimes not really a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not really explaining that very well. But,
I think it's called ruminance or something like that. It's actually in psychological terms, if you keep talking about your problem,
it starts to manifest.
It manifests itself, and you're always thinking about it. Where sometimes it's don't talk about it as much, and it will go away.
It's like don't think of a white elephant, and what do you do?
Yeah, that's true.
You think of a white elephant. So yeah, it's one of those things. The more that you plant it with the athletes that they can't do it, or they constantly practice the thing that you don't want them to do, it just becomes more of their norm. It becomes more of their default. So you have to kind of bring it to their consciousness, to a conscious level, and get them to understand, all right, what's going on, what's their fear, why aren't they going into these scenarios at 100%. It's because there's a fear associated with that as well. So okay, cool, we need to slow it down and break it down into the actual skill, feeling more confident, becoming more competent and confident with it, and then we can start to ramp it up, and then lo and behold, she's Gigi and Karina are actually being able to hold their own multiple times, and they're playing really good football as of late.
I think I heard a saying that you don't want for anything in life, you don't want to make them less scared of doing something, you want to make them more brave of doing.
Make them more capable,
more brave to actually do it, because you're never going to get the worriness away of it. You just got to make them more braver of doing that.
Yeah, and you're going to make it more manageable for them to be able to overcome it. And that's where you break it down into it's more the smaller skills, and then you start to increase the complexity and difficulty of it, and over time they're going to become a lot more competent. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I wish coaching was this easy as this podcast.
It'd be easy, wouldn't it?
I know. That's a wrap for part 1 of this episode on the Inner Athlete podcast. We've covered some incredible insights today, but there's still so much more to come. Make sure to tune in to part 2 for the rest of the conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, and share it with your network to help us reach even more listeners like you. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you in part 2.